Top of the morning to you, or afternoon, middle of the night, whatever. So a few years ago, Nikki and I were shopping in a thrift store and we came across this. This is Irish Food and Cooking. It's got a lot of great recipes in here, and we came across this one. Beef and Guinness Casserole, and you know, I can hardly resist a dish that requires you to put beer in it. Now, I will give you fair warning here, this recipe is a bit of a pain in the ass. It takes about 3 hours top to bottom, regardless of what it says in the book, but it's so good. So earlier today, I went out and made a special trip to the grocery store and got all the stuff that I needed. Alright, first let's go to the produce section. We need an onion, we need 2 leeks, need some carrots, celery sticks, gonna need some potatoes because we serve this over mashed potatoes. And it says we need some shallots or small onions, I guess these will do, and some mushrooms. For the meat, we're gonna need 2 pounds of stewing beef and some bacon. Oh, everything's better with bacon. And we'll need some beef stock. Gonna need some butter, and to keep it real, I'm getting some Irish butter, and I do believe I'm almost out of olive oil. And before we go, we need to make a special trip to the back of the store where they keep the booze. Now, I only need 1 of these, but it looks like it only comes in an 8-pack, so do what you gotta do. And I suppose a Snicker bar. That's not for the stew, that's for me. Alright, so first thing, we're gonna be browning the meat in some olive oil, and then we're gonna get our vegetables ready because we'll need them pretty quick here. There, 2 tablespoons. Start it here. Now, whenever I get stewing meat, I always find that there are a few pieces that are a little bit big. So while I'm waiting for this to heat up, I'm going to cut a couple of them down. You look a little big. A part of the reason we were so drawn to this recipe is because my wife has a pretty strong Irish heritage. I, on the other hand, am mostly English. Fortunately, she doesn't hold that against me too much. Now, we don't need to cook the meat all the way through, just kind of got to get it browned. Okay, now get some of the vegetables ready. Need to chop up the onions. Whew, strong onions today. Now, these little guys, they say to leave them whole. Next, we're going to transfer, this is what the directions say, transfer the meat to a casserole. It's just a pan, big pan, like that. You want to keep the juices in there because we're going to saute the vegetables in that. Now, the recipe does not differentiate between which of these vegetables are the vegetables. So what we're dealing with right now is the carrots, celery, and the leeks. Chop up the carrot. Man overboard! Need 2 pieces of celery, roughly cut up, because these vegetables are actually going to get taken out. They're really only to flavor the stew. Now, the recipe calls this a casserole. I think it's a stew, but what do I know? Now, these leeks, they say they're organic, and I think that just means that they left the dirt on them. Take off the little Dr. Seuss hat, because it's full of dirt. And it's kind of hard to clean that part. Slice this up. So this is kind of like an onion, and it makes the house smell so good when it's sauteing. And saute these vegetables for about 5 minutes. Alright, while that's finishing up, I'm going to pour the stock, 1¼ cups. Put that in the casserole. Now we can add vegetables to the casserole with the meat. We also need 2 cloves of garlic, or if you just buy the minced garlic like this, that comes out to about a teaspoon. Now we need to add the Guinness. Now, you can get bottled Guinness, but Guinness in a can is absolutely the best. Pour very slowly, 2/3 of a cup. Pour that in like that. Now, what in the world am I going to do with the rest of this? I'll tell you what, before you start cooking, you put is that a dog hair? You put a glass in the freezer so it's nice and frosty, and pour yourself a stout. There we are. Then the instructions say season. With what? I'm assuming they're referring to the salt and ground black pepper that they have down the bottom of the recipe, for which they do not specify an amount. So we'll just add some salt, some fresh pepper, and some seasoning salt, just a sprinkle. And we're gonna stir that all up, and then we're gonna turn up the heat to high to get it boiling. Cover that. Okay, so now I gotta wait for that to boil. What to do? Oh man, that's good. All right, we're boiling. So we're gonna reduce the heat down to low. Give it another stir here. That is just gonna simmer covered for about an hour and a half. So in the meantime, now's a good time to peel the potatoes and get ready to make your mashed potatoes. Now, truth be told, it doesn't have to be mashed potatoes. It can be biscuits. You can put it on top of pasta if you want. Now, I'm making my mashed potatoes with actual potatoes, but if you prefer instant, that's fine. No judgment here. Anytime I'm getting potatoes in a bag, the first thing I do at the store is give it a sniff, because there is nothing worse in your kitchen than a rotten potato. And I'm checking them for bad spots. Do 6 potatoes, that should do it. When I'm making mashed potatoes for Thanksgiving, I'll just do an entire 10-pound bag. And peel the potatoes. Wash them off. There we go. Now, most of the time when you look up a recipe about how to make mashed potatoes with real potatoes, they tell you to boil them whole, which you can do if you don't mind waiting around for half an hour. But I like to just cut them up into little 1-inch cubes, and then they only need to boil for 10 minutes. These potatoes in here, fill that with water, and save that for later. Now next I'm going to chop up the bacon, and the recipe says 3 ounces streaky, fatty bacon, trimmed and diced. If you're going to trim it, why specify fatty? Now bacon is basically an ounce per slice, so talking 3 to 4 pieces here, and just chop it up in some small pieces. Trim the fat. All right, we are getting very close. Oh, it smells so good. We're getting very close with the stew, so I'm gonna start the potatoes, get that burner on, get them boiling. All right, so now it says remove the meat from the casserole and strain the cooking liquid and reserve. Discard the vegetables, like a 4-year-old. Now, this is all a lot easier said than done. So the way I handle this is with my steamer. So I'm gonna strain what is in here through the steamer and then use some tongs to get the meat separated from that. Now you're probably gonna get some of the vegetables in here, and that's okay. Doing it like this gets the liquid separated from it. That just strains away while you're doing this, and then you can just get the meat out of there best you can. Go. All right, now that we got that out of the way, we're going to take this liquid that we strained out and we're going to reserve that because we're going to need that for later. Well, I may as well use the others. Oh yeah. All right, meat we will put aside as well. All right, mashed potatoes are boiling. I'm going to lower the heat just a bit and set my timer for 10 minutes. So now we need to saute the bacon, mushrooms, shallots, onions in the butter. So we need 1/4 cup of butter, which is basically half a stick. Adding the bacon, mushrooms, and the onions and shallots. And we're going to give this a good stir while we're doing this, and you really want to kind of poke at the bacon to get it all separated. Saute for about 10 minutes until the vegetables are tender. Now while we're waiting for this to saute, you want to get ready a 1/4 cup of flour. Alright, so then when the vegetables are all tender, we're going to turn our heat down to low. We're going to add our flour. Stir that in and let that cook for an additional 2 to 3 minutes. While that's cooking, just keep on stirring. It's going to feel like it's just a ball of mush, but keep stirring and keep poking at it. Alright, and now we're going to add a little bit at a time our reserved liquid. Add a little more, stir. Now we add back in the meat. Now we're going to strain the potatoes and back in the bowl. I'm going to add the rest of the butter that I have there. And I'll start with 2 teaspoons of salt, but we might want a little bit more. And you just taste it as you go, and if you feel like it needs something, just add it in. I can't even describe how good this is. So, there you have it. It's our Guinness Irish casserole stew, whatever you want to call it. They call it casserole, I call it a stew. So like I said, it takes a while, and it's messy. The sink over here is just full of dishes, but it is absolutely worth it. So if you're feeling ambitious someday, you got some time on your hands, and you want to make an unforgettable dish, it's right here. And of course, don't forget to leave a little extra stout for yourself. See you next time. Cheers.